the other day, I was watching my mom, and it's so amazing to see the people you love in particular through the lens of human design. Because I often say that when you really understand how people are built and why they get in their own way for very understandable, mechanical, predictable reasons, it gives you so much, not just compassion, but it gives you so much affection for them because you just see them as like cute humans who are always going to come up against the things they're going to come up against, just like you are going to come up against the stuff you're going to come up against. And it's not that you're doing anything wrong. But anyway, so just for context, my mother has this incredible gift of being able to bring people together and galvanize people and create amazing I guess background scenes for people gathering. So she's unbelievable at doing up homes, and she's unbelievable at planning an event or a wedding or a birthday party. She's unbelievable at seeing it so simple and doing it in the most practical way. Like she thinks about, not only does she think about all the details, but she makes it come together so quick, and she really thinks about the person's experience in the thing. So she's not following like the done way of doing things, but she's just seeing this picture in her mind, and it takes her all of 2 seconds to make something come together that it would take most people months and months. And it's amazing how people around her revere it in her all the time. But because it comes to her so naturally, like how it does with all of us with our gifts, she has never ever thought that she would make a living out of it or could make money being paid to do that for people. So, anyway, the other day I'm watching her in her home. She was going to have a group of people come over the next day to hear Ruth Nachmias, the Kabbalistic astrologer, do a talk in her house about what's coming up in the year astrologically for the world events and politics and all sorts of different things. And I see her, transform this room into a perfect setup for a talk, and it's all ready. And I'm like, how did you even do this so quick? But even though she was completely in her lane and I could tell it was giving her life, the fascinating part to me was she then was like, oh God, to try and get all the chairs together so that each person could see the person who'd be talking. Oh, because that was a real thing I had to do. And it was absolutely fascinating to me because I replied saying, you love it though. And it was absolutely fascinating to me to see how, even though as a generator, you can be lit up by something, even if you don't have someone else telling you that it's hard and it's heavy, she's now having to tell people that it's hard and it's heavy and have them reconfirm it back to her. So it really made me want to talk about this idea that, yes, okay, we talk about the way your parents bring you up and, your early childhood and the things that happened to you and what your conditioning was back then. But honestly, what we're sleeping on is, where are we still perpetuating our own conditioning? And that is genuinely a bigger force to be contended with than the one event that first made it happen, right? The event happened, but then it's us who keep it going and keep needing to tell that story over the last few decades. And not only are we retelling that other story, but we're also pulling in other people to agree with that personal lie, that false belief, to say things that actually aren't true reality. Because all I could see was a woman who was on fire and so lit up and so full of energy and in her zone. And yet what I'm hearing her say and what she's wanting from me is for her to be praised for doing something that was difficult, when really she could have done it in her sleep and maybe no one else could have. So I want to open this conversation to say that, and it's actually a very freeing thing to realize that it's us who are telling the story that we're not seen. It's us who are telling the story that something that we actually love doing, we may be still feeling guilty over that it could be that much fun. We're still feeling guilty that it could come to us that easy. We're still wanting to show other people that we're struggling too, so that they don't see us as so different as them, or they're still thinking that they need to be praised for doing something difficult. And so they're creating a situation where they need praise for doing something difficult by telling you how difficult something is. And, you can apply this across all levels of human design, but really what it comes down to is this idea that instead of thinking that the outside world is praising you as a generator for doing things you don't want to do, where are you trying to get them to praise you for things you don't enjoy doing? Where are you looking for that praise? Where, as projectors, are we trying to make invitations happen when clearly people haven't invited us, and then we're clearly imposing ourselves on other people and we're not getting anything back because we aren't doing it, or we're creating situations where people tell us they're not interested. Even worse, we're creating situations where we throw a ball at the wall and it gets smacked back in our face. Where, as manifestors, because they're so afraid of not being supported, are they smallening themselves so that people don't have anything to support? And then that's reconfirming to them that they're not supported, and so on and so forth. And I just think that, I think it's Joe Dispenza who says this. It's like you're telling a story of something that you don't even fully remember, but really on a scientific level, it's the chemical reaction that you're really remembering. It's not the sequence of events, it's the chemical reaction. And because we get addicted to said chemical loops happening, we, without even knowing, replay the loops so that the same chemicals can be released inside our bodies over and over again. But we're looking back at our past and trying to blame the past, or maybe not even trying to blame the past. Let's say we're trying to understand the root, but actually the root doesn't matter so much as they're taking the full responsibility for not recreating the thing that you're wanting to see, that goes, see, back to yourself. So my opening question is, what negative experience is irking you so much about your current life, but when you see it, you almost feel like, I'm right about it. It's here. I'm a victim of this, or I'm experiencing this. Told ya. And who are we told ya-ing is only ourselves. And it's only us that are struggling. And I do believe that that is one of the biggest blocks, if not the biggest block, from all of us allowing ourselves to let life be easy. So what is it? What quality do you think you have to still do, or what action do you still have to take in order to feel like you can have a great life? Do you feel like you need to earn it by being smart? Do you feel like you need to earn it by being a hard worker? In the case of my mom, do you feel you need to earn it by being special? Like whatever it is, what are the gates to entry to a good life that we all think we need to put down, prove, invest, show, in order to feel like, okay, well, I've earned having a life that's easy? And I think the real hack around this is understanding that you don't need to justify having an easy life because you are working hard or gifted or smarter or whatever, because it's not about you. It's not even, of course, the universe loves us so much and wants us to have a life of ease, but it also needs us to have a life of ease. It needs us to get down to the freaking job of doing the thing where there's no resistance. That's what makes us have a life of ease. It needs us to be having no noise around us being in our lane, because being in our lane is us just saying, I am serving you, like God, creator, universe, whatever you're doing, right? It's not that the universe is like falling over itself to give us an easy life and no one else. It's saying, if everyone is in their proper lane, then there should be smooth interaction in the world. There should be smooth, no friction in existence on planet Earth. So it's not the story that we tell ourselves, which is also from ego, is I need to prove that I'm somehow doing the thing I need to do to then get it easy later on. And then what happens? We perpetuate the cycle of the proving and we never get to the later on. So you could end up actually on paper having achieved your dream, right? But still feeling not great inside because, let's say, in the example of my mom, still needing to justify to everyone how hard she's working, and then those words are coming out of her mouth, and then her body's believing it, or she's feeling guilty if she doesn't feel like she's in her lane, or she feels like how could she dare she possibly be in her lane, or who else would that threaten, or what else would that threaten in her life, the presence of this, that, or the other. Or if I don't get people to understand me, I won't feel close to people, or I won't feel loved by people, or I'll feel lonely, or I won't be successful. And you could end up being the most successful person on planet Earth, and yet still not feeling the full reward feelings of that success and that becoming and that manifestation of being your higher self, because we're still hooked into people don't understand me. And that's why I always say to people, becoming the person you're meant to be is so necessary on the way to your dreams, because otherwise you won't be unblocked and clear enough when you get there to even feel the feelings that you think those dreams are going to give you. And ironically, you can train yourself to feel abundant and free and buoyant and joyful without the blocks. And then the success is just like the success of a marriage, the success of a baby, the success of raising kids, living in a place, being a master manifester, right? All of those things. That's just like fun and playing with matter. Ultimately, that's what it is. So where are we thinking that we still have to earn our keep? And actually, does it even rear its ugly head even more when we are in our lane, because we're not used to being in our lane with ease? And that's actually the time that those voices, unless we've grounded them and learned how to master them and unhook from that emotional addiction, that's actually when they're going to come out the strongest, funny enough. Because when you're struggling and you don't feel intelligent and you don't feel like you're in your lane, you're not generating any energy. So the ego is not going to run to the front and center of your mind as much, right? Because you're already keeping yourself small as it is. The second it gets a whiff of you being in your lane, that's also when, by the way, the spiritual transformation for us is at its absolute highest potential, because that's when we get to see we're in the game, we're participating, we're playing, we're exchanging, we're doing stuff, we're making moves. That's when we are going to be able to come up against really feeling and really seeing where we're still perpetuating the conditioning, very, very easily tieable to our charts, that maybe weren't showing themselves when we weren't in our lane. Because when we're not in our lane, we can blame it on, there's other things to focus on, like how will I ever make enough money to keep myself on my 2 feet, or I don't feel gifted, or whatever it is, right? Those more basic Maslow's hierarchy of needs are what we don't worry about when we're not in our lane. When we finally have a dream, when we finally realize something, when we finally get into a good flow, that's when the sabotage can really start.
This kind of ties into someone on your story was asking a question about how you healed your adrenals. And if you want to share, I think you should share that, because it is something that, projectors do to make things harder on ourselves. Because do you want to kind of explain what I mean by that?
Yeah. So I think this woman must have been following me for a while, because I used to talk about having adrenal issues probably 4 or 5 years ago. And I do talk about the fact, and you can learn more in the projector, eating for projectors video, because we have a video on our website, myhumandesign.com, that talks about the health of each energy type and how they can eat, sleep, and move in order to optimize their flow of energy. One of the things that's very common with projectors specifically is, adrenaline issues, because obviously our conditioning is that we try to keep up with the rest of the world, right? And so in trying to make yourself run at a faster pace to be the same as everybody else, you can burn out your adrenals. But I think also you can actually talk about, on a wider level, everyone else in the world is probably familiar with that feeling anyway, because there's a societal pressure to overdo it at whatever capacity. Whatever you're doing, do more, right? So she was saying, how did you heal your adrenals? And I said to her, I've done all the supplements and the protocols and the whatever. But what really helps is actually not bracing and bristling to life as a mental attitude, right? As a preparation of how I'm going to meet the day, because then I could on paper have the calmest day. But if I'm always bracing, and if I'm always, in anticipation of having to fight fires, or push myself, or fill in your thing, your adrenals are going to be firing up, ready for that fight and flight, ready to run, ready to go. And so even if they're not met with any outside confirmation that there is a need to fight and flight, you are perpetuating that state of fight and flight. And I'm happy that you brought this up because it's exactly the same thing. My mother is probably anticipating that someone is going to say to her, "Oh my God, you're so good at it. That's incredible how you just did that." Or actually, probably not give her any praise for doing something at all. And that's what she was maybe after, right? And so a way to get praise is to talk about how hard it is. Um, but it's like we create these patterns. And I say this often to you, Taylor, like that's how when we're talking, I kind of describe it as like we're whacking our pattern on other people, getting them to play a role in something that is purely selfish for us, right? We're pulling them out of just cracking on and doing their own day and seeing beauty in us and seeing ease and seeing lightness and life and levity and actually maybe just a minute of no busy mind, right? Or not having to say unnecessary words or having to think unnecessary things, pay attention to unnecessary things or things that don't even probably exist, because we're pulling them into our game, because we're whacking our patterns on everyone and everything we come across in the day if we are in a pattern. And we're all in patterns, they're all big and small, but a pattern of being in fight and flight is going to create the experience of fight and flight, and is also more likely to create fight and flight situations in your life because that's what you're whacking onto the canvas of life. So you almost have to undo the part of you that perpetuates that cycle, and this cycle cannot help but physically absolutely disappear, because it takes two to tango. You take one person out, there's no more tango.
I do wonder too if, because I think this applies to all the energy types, that we all really do want to have this deep validation for the things that we're gifted at, but we think like we have to make it look harder on the outside in order for us to even get validation for that, when actually the more easy we let it be and the more we even perpetuate the story of that, it's so natural the way my gifts come out of me, that allows other people to say, it's so natural the way my gifts come out of me. And then we actually get what we all are wanting because we can just stand next to each other and be so happy about how natural it is, instead of perpetuating the fight and flight of how hard everything is.
Absolutely. And that's why one person, this principle of entrainment, is when we're emitting a frequency of ease, then it automatically makes other people, it programs into them that that's a possibility for them, and it makes it easier for them to get into that frequency themselves too. Even if they can't tie those two things together, you're just giving off good waves everywhere you go. That is presenting and opening into a different corner of being that maybe didn't come across someone else's path before. And don't forget that the universe is always going to offer your free will. It's always going to follow your cues of what you say and do. And so if you are still coming and living off the high of, if you are running on the high of being praised for how hard you work, then the universe is going to say, okay, keep doing it then. If you want praise for how hard you work, all right, let's send you some hard work then, I guess. That's what you're wanting. Cool.
Yeah, and I think anybody can relate to that feeling of needing people to see all the things behind all of your gifts. But like even in our app development process, there's so many things that go into making an app that no one that uses the app will ever notice. But there's also so many things that go into building a house that no one living in a home will ever notice. There's so many things that go into cooking a meal that no one will ever notice. And we think it's just our thing that there's so many things that no one is noticing, but it's really everyone having that experience.
That's really interesting. Yeah, that behind any type of craft, if you want to get good at something, you master the process, and the process is for you, meaning the process is what changes you as a human being, hopefully. The end result is your offering and your service and your love to the world. So the process is not for them. The process is for you. That's the part that, the challenges, the tests, the making and creating and conceiving and all of that, that's the nuggets that you get to keep. And hopefully you have taken them as cues of what to transform in yourself next. And then the end result, the beauty, the art that is created, whether that's a masterful spreadsheet or a robot or a meal, like you said, that's the thing that gets spat out at the end as the end of the equation. That is the changing the physical world, which is the last part, in some kind of way as the little tag that you did something and added something net into the world.
Yeah, I always kind of that seems to be helping me recently of this thought that someone chose the grout in my home. I don't need to know the whole process behind it to enjoy that home. And hopefully that person doesn't need me to validate them for the color of the grout that they chose. Like we can all just create our things and benefit from each other's things that we create. And it seems to help me at least not feel like I have to perpetuate that story of things being hard. Um, yeah.
I think it's also so interesting that I guess it really does depend on energy types in the sense that, well, I think with my mother, for example, because she never has been um, received compensation for those kinds of things that she does, the more you're in deficit, the more you're in deficit to an extent too, right? But also there's a projector thing, is what you're saying, is like, we do have a hook of wanting to be seen. And ultimately, when we recognize our own gifts, that not only makes us move through the world in a different way, that the right people who want what we have to give actually know how to spot us, but also then you realize, and this you can apply this part to everyone, is that the real fulfilling part is recognizing how precious you are. The real fulfilling part is actually you don't need validation from other people. It's unhooking from that, because of course we want to feel like we're doing great things in the world and we're doing our love and our art and our beauty and whatever it is, but we're not doing it to get that back. We're doing it to witness the divine energy expressed in the unique way through us, coming out of us. We're feeling that kind of waterfall effect, right? We're feeling it rush through our heads and then we're feeling it come out. And ultimately that's when actually people do say nice things, but you didn't contort your actions to get that validation back. You just did your actions because you know that that is your devotion anyway, and because it's really fun to be in your lane and you've allowed it to be fun. And I think this is a really timely topic, because we are all supposed to be doing the thing that we almost don't let ourselves do because it could be that delicious and that easy. But now and I'm talking to myself, I'm talking to you, I'm talking to everybody, like we've got to get over it and go to whatever next level of ease and enjoyment comes to us, because there are so many people who rely on seeing that in us, but also because the universe is like desperate to put people to good use in the exact roles that it needs to be fulfilled, because this is kind of a hurry and we kind of don't have time to waste anymore. So if you love being a florist, like please go be a florist, and please don't have any guilt or any proving, and don't use your business or your craft as a reason to, or as a tool to perpetuate ego, to perpetuate the struggle, to perpetuate how much you're doing for others, your self-sacrificial nature, your whatever the story is and we all have different stories, right? Like you're saying about people understanding the process is not something that I have. But as I'm hearing you talk about it, I'm like applying it to what is it that I still feel a pattern that I'm still perpetuating, right? And how can I pull the plug on that? And I think seeing it and sharing other people's, hearing other people's makes you think, oh, if I can so see that that one doesn't need to be in place just because it's not mine, could I maybe see that mine doesn't need to feel real, even though it feels so real to me that that's the only way I could possibly live life? Can I let go of the guilt of having it so joyful or easy? Or can I let go of the guilt of just being smart without needing to explain myself? Can I let go of the story of being misunderstood, or the story of being weak, or the story of being helpless, or the addiction to not knowing where my life is going? I think that's a big one too. Like the confusion energy is very addictive. It's a comfort zone if making a decision and being decisive and taking one strong course of action and backing yourself, or backing one choice, backing one horse. I know a lot of people who they're always deciding between two things, and whatever they're deciding with changes, but it's the addiction to the cycle of always needing to not know what they're doing. So whatever your addiction is, please don't use your love, the thing, your lane, to, because it's so special and it's so rarefied and it's so divine. Don't use that as a way to get our emotional ego addictions alive, because they're gifts. We're almost not allowed to use them for that. They're so special. Let's be so clean in those areas. And if the universe wants it to be that easy, it's only because it's being very straight up and direct with you and saying, listen, I need to make this easy. I need to make it easy for me, the divine, not for you. Like, I'm happy that you're finding it easy, but I'm being purely selfish here. So can you kind of get out of your own way and get out of my way in doing so, you know?
It's so true. It's like, it's a zoom out a little bit of, it does help to zoom out a little bit and realize that you always say, like, we're kind of, what do you say, that we're a vessel for the divine? Or what do you say?
Mm-hmm.
You're a
vessel, yeah.
No, there was another word, but yeah, you're here to express something that wants to be expressed, and it really doesn't have anything to do specifically with you. It has to do with like the divine wanting to express itself in the reality.
Yeah. And having said, okay, well, I have created this beautiful symphony of humans and they all are one, and yet they're all different. And so this is not about like this calling is more special than this calling, or this one is this one. It's just like, no, I need to, it's like when you make a Lego, like when you make tons of Legos and you make them all play together, like I need everyone cooperating. So even if one person is out of janky slightly, it's going to throw everyone else out of whack. And so even if you're in your lane, the other piece of this is, are you actually on paper doing your lane, but are you having all the stories about it that's actually throwing out the energy with which you're doing your lane, or the ease and the peace and the speed at which it can elevate, because we're still creating resistance around it because we don't want to feel super understood, or we don't want to feel like we're having a wonderful life, or we don't want to feel like it can be easy for us because we think that maybe that means it can't be easy for everyone else. And that's the lie that we really need to get down to, is like the word then, smarter than, easier than, more joyful than, more successful than. If we stop doing the comparison and realize that we're showing our intelligence because everyone is a genius underneath, everyone has a different kind of genius. And so just because you're right now the exception, it doesn't mean that soon it's not going to become the rule if you are the part of the exception that makes it the rule because you dare to go first. And also because if enough people dare to stick out and, create this new average of level of intelligence, then again, entrainment, it makes it so much easier for other people if we are brave enough to dare to go first. And so can we let go of the comparison of, okay, well, I am smart, I am in my lane, and I am feeling like it's almost so much fun, but I don't want to have a story around that. I don't want to prang. I don't want to self-sabotage that, because I want everyone to feel like it. Like, wouldn't I want that for my child? Wouldn't I want that for my best friend? I would want to tell them, oh my gosh, of course it's supposed to be easy for you. I would do anything for you to stay in that feeling. We have got to take the one that we are given, the thing that we have to love first before we can even know how to anything else could be loved. The only thing we are ever for sure guaranteed never going to go away, tasked with looking after and taking care of, is the piece of consciousness that's inside our physical bodies, right? That's the only one that can't leave. So if we can't want that for ourselves, we absolutely will not truly, truly, truly be able to fully want that to the extent that we can for other people, So you have to treat the fragment that's placed inside you. It's like you're looking for 100 things to love. Well, hello, the universe, like, it's right under your freaking nose. Can you start and practice with that one? Can you master it so that everything you touch in the world around you is going to feel that your body has looked after your piece? So now you have enough in your own body to spread to other pieces. Seems pretty logical. And, that's ultimately what it comes down to, is it's almost not taking it personally, not creating the story around everyone is amazing and we just don't know how amazing we are. And in order to create a world that is the norm, we have to practice in the breeding ground well enough. We have to get rid of those stories inside so that everything we put out into the world doesn't come with a pattern, doesn't come with pulling in other people to perpetuate the negative inside. And we think we can afford to just be negative with other people, but we can't, because we don't see how we're pulling them in and bleeding them and taking them out of their alignment in order to be so unkind to ourselves. And obviously, in turn, it does come out as being unkind to others in ways that we're not even aware. So I want us to all remember, it's meant to be easy. You are a genius. You do deserve to do that one thing that comes so easy to you that you don't even feel like it was work, that you enjoyed it so much that you saw the divine like gush out of you as you do it, and to be more than compensated for it. And you should want that for yourself, because you want that for everybody else, for every human, and you are one of those humans, spoiler. And so your work here is not complete if you leave yourself out of the equation. And the same for me, the same for you, the same for everybody. And this is really the basis of real felt love, not just understood idealistic love, but this is like felt, practiced in action of the daily life kind of love. And so let's try it.